Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Radha Govinda Dev ki jai, Juna Godesh Subhadra Devi ki jai, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Oh, glory to the same devotees. Okay. Oops. 88, right? Mm-hmm. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jai Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda. Jai Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Haribo. Yeah. Haribo. Can you hear me? Haribo.
No, it's
Right.
about lowering.
No problem.
Please.
Please.
Out of be in front of his face.
Can't raise it.
Maybe I can just speak like this. That's not good.
No.
Just keep it like this. That's no problem.
Still gonna make
Ah, that's better. Haribo. Okay. Okay, we're reading from Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Ādi-līlā, chapter 3, text 88. Apana lokaite Krishna nanayata kare. Apana lokaite Krishna nanayatna kare. Tatapi tanhara bhakta janaye tanhare. Tatapi tanhara bhakta janaye tanhare. Apana lokaite Krishna nanayatna kare. Tatapi tanhara bhakta janaye tanhare. Apana lokaite Krishna yatra kare. Tatapi tanhara bhakta janaye tanhare. Apana lokaite Krishna nanaratna kare. Hare. Apana lokaite Krishna nanayat kare. Tatapi tanhara. Apana lokaite Krishna nanayatna kare. Apana himself, lokaite, to hide, Krishna, Lord Krishna, Nana, various, Yatna, efforts, Kare, makes, Tathapi, still, Tanhara, his, Bhakta, devotee, Janaye, knows, Tanhare, him. Translation and purport of the next verse. By His Divine Grace, by Charan Ravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Lord Shri Krishna tries to hide himself in various ways, but nevertheless his pure devotees know him as he is. Text 89. Ulangita Trivida Sima Samatishai Sambhavanam Tava Parivadhima Svabhavam Maya Balena Bhavatapi Niguhyamanam Pashyanti Kechit Amisham Tvat Ananya Bhava. Oh my Lord, everything within material nature is limited by time, space, and thought. Your characteristics, however, being unequaled and unsurpassed, are always transcendental to such limitations. You sometimes cover such characteristics by your own energy, but nevertheless, your unalloyed devotees are always able to see you under all circumstances. Purport. This verse is also quoted from the Stotra Ratna 13 of Yamunacharya. Everything covered by the influence of Maya is within the limited boundaries of space, time, and thought. Even the greatest manifestation we can conceive, the sky, also has limitations. From the authentic scriptures, however, it is evident that beyond the sky is a covering of 7 layers, each 10 times thicker than the one preceding it. The covering layers are vast, but with or without coverings, space is limited. Our power to think about space and time is also limited. Time is eternal. We may imagine billions and trillions of years, but that will still be an inadequate estimate of the extent of time. Our imperfect senses, therefore, cannot think of the greatness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, nor can we bring him within the limitations of time or our thinking power. His position is accordingly described by the word ulangita. He is transcendental to space, time, and thought. Although he appears within them, he exists transcendentally. Even when the Lord's transcendental existence is disguised by space, time, and thought, however, pure devotees of the Supreme Lord can see him in his personal features beyond space, time, and thought. In other words, even though the Lord is not visible to the eyes of ordinary men, those who are beyond the covering layers, because of their transcendental devotional service, can still see him. The sun may appear covered by a cloud, but actually it is the eyes of the tiny people below the cloud that are covered, not the sun. If those tiny people rose above the cloud in an airplane, they could then see the sunshine and the sun without impediment. Similarly, although the covering of Maya is very strong, Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Daivi Hiesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya Mam Eva Ye Prapadyante Mayam Etam Tarantite. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the 3 modes of material nature, is difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered unto me can easily cross beyond it. Bhagavad Gita 7:14. To surpass the influence of the illusory energy is very difficult. But those who are determined to catch hold of the lotus feet of the Lord are freed from the clutches of Maya. Therefore, pure devotees can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but demons, because of their miscreant behavior, cannot understand the Lord, in spite of seeing the many revealed scriptures and the uncommon activities of the Lord. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayati girinyat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurun. Divad Vrindarana Kalpa Drumada Srimat Ratnagara Simha Srimat Radha Shiva Govinda Deva Prashtara Hare Krishna. So today there is no breakfast, so you can speak 2 hours. I'm joking. So the first verse says that Lord Krishna, he may try to hide himself, but the pure devotees, they always see him. And this reminded me about a pastime from Caitanya-caritāmṛta as well. When Lord Chaitanya described the different aspects of Vaishnava philosophy to Rupa and Sanatana Goswami, in particular to Sanatana Goswami. And he was describing the different avatars. So how many types of avatars there are? 6. Okay, who are they? Purusha avatars, Lila, Yuga, Manvantara avatara. Yeah, he's, I think, inside the Lila avatars. Actually, it's different type of, or not? Yeah. Yeah, and then Yuga avatars also, like Yuga Dharma. Yuga avatar is the holy name, and Manvantara avatar. And Manvantara avatar, interestingly enough, many times we think Manvantara avatars are the Manus, but in Lagu Bhagavatamrita it is described that they are different expansions, incarnations of Krishna who protect Indra. So, for example, in our Manvantara, the Manvantara avatar is Vamanadev. So he took away the heavenly planets from Bali Maharaj, gave it to Purandara, Indra. But then in future, another incarnation, next one, will take away, I forgot the name of the next one, the next Manvantara avatar, will take away heaven from Indra and give it back to Bali Maharaj, because he will be the next Indra. So anyway, Mahaprabhu was describing all these different avatars, and he was making the point that the avatars of the Lord are mentioned in the revealed scriptures by 2 characteristics: the form of the avatar and also the activities. And then Sanatana Goswami was listening, and then he raised the question, "My dear Lord, let me get this straight. So by your own words, appears that," and he quoted the verse, no, he meant a verse from Bhagavatam. In the age of Kali, the avatar of the Lord will be golden in color. So this is the characteristic, the primary quality. And then also he will perform prema sankirtan. So am I understanding everything correctly, my dear Lord? So, and then Mahaprabhu, he said, "My dear Sanatana, give up your intelligent tricks and listen carefully about the Guna avatars I'm going to describe now." So this is an example how the devotees, they, although the Lord sometimes, for different reasons, the Lord may decide to hide, the devotees are seeing the Lord, they recognize Him, and because of their love, Pramanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksadaiva Hridaya Shuri Lokayanti Yam Shyama Sundaram Achintya Gunasvarupam Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami. Those who have love for Krishna, they see Him. Also, it reminded me about this pastime when Krishna was standing in his Narayana form and trying to hide, and then he successfully was able to hide himself from most of the gopis, but then Srimati Radharani saw him. She could see through the illusion. Of course, Narayana form is not an illusion, but she could see. So sometimes there is a apparent conflict between the desire of the Lord and the desire of the pure devotees. And what happens then? Who prevails? The devotees. Like for example with Mother Yashoda, she wanted to bind Krishna because he was misbehaving. But Krishna didn't want to be bound because Krishna wanted to play with his friends. And then his Icha Shakti, which is the energy of the desire of the Lord, she's always very vigilant, not vigilant, she's always very careful to fulfill the desires of the Lord before even he can speak up. He knows what is the desire. So this is the first class disciple, the first class servant. So she extended this. No, she didn't. She made impossible for Mother Yashoda to bind Krishna. But then when the love of Mother Yashoda was so overwhelming, then this Icha Shakti stepped back, and then Krishna agreed to be bound because even his energy of desire is stepping back when the full-fledged, pure love of the devotee comes forward. So Krishna agrees to be bound by his devotees. Also, in Srimad Bhagavatam, we know these Chaturshloki verses. There, the last verse of this Chaturshloki, it states, Etavat eva jigyasyam tattva jigyasunatmanaha anvaya vyatirekabhyam yatsyat sarvatra sarvada. Whoever, if somebody is searching after the absolute truth, then he should continue to search. Anvaya vyatirekabhyam. Krishna says up to this because he's talking to Brahma. Up to this means up to this point when now you see me in my original form. Up to this point, one should continue his search for the absolute truth, for Krishna, with direct anvaya or indirect methods, vyatireka, and this should continue all the time, in all circumstances, sarvatra sarvada, always. And in the next verse, Krishna, Vimalacharya, and Srila Prabhupada in the purport explain that Krishna basically cannot be known by our mental faculties, by our sense perception, by different speculative methods, because he's transcendent, he's beyond. So how many ways, how many proofs, how many evidence, according to Vedas, according to our tradition, there are? How do we know something? How do you know that Krishna is the Lord? How do we know anything? What are the methods? They're called pramana in Sanskrit. Yes, shabda. So we accept three main methods. Of course, there are more, but Jiva Goswami explains that these are the main categories, and all these additional, they are groups of either Anumana, Pratyaksha, or Shabda. So the first one, Pratyaksha, because here it is stated that there are 7 layers, and there is a sky, all these material elements, and we access them through our senses and mind. So the Acharyas describe this Pratyaksha as the contact between the senses and the sense objects. Pratyaksha, sense perception. The problem with this Pratyaksha, Anumana, Pratyaksha, Pramana, is that when we contact the sense objects, we don't necessarily see the origin. What is this contact? So first we have the the Pancha-mahabhutas, these are the 5 gross material elements: earth, water, fire, ether, and air. And then when our senses touch them, then appears what is called tanmatra, pancha-tanmatra, the subtle qualities of these elements. So when we access sound through our ear, this is the subtle element of ether. This is how we know what's going on around us. And then all the jnanendriyas, knowledge acquiring senses, they have this, they can experience these different elements, and all the information is gathered in the mind, and then the mind relishes, so-called, the 3 gunas. This is why we are here. This is the material sanctification that Srila Prabhupada is speaking constantly, warning us against it. But what is it? All this pratyaksha is based on ignorance, because we mentioned, because the contact between senses and the sense objects doesn't reveal the origin, Krishna, necessarily. And also the whole scene, the whole material matrix is based on the false ego, which is the beginning of our conditioning. We wanted to be separate from Krishna, which is of course impossible, but Krishna kindly gave us opportunity to try. And what happens? Let's say you are a wealthy heir of coming from very aristocratic family, but somehow you become rebellious. The boy runs out of home and he doesn't want to have anything to do with his family. So what happens? First thing, he has to acquire new identity. So this is the first thing that Krishna has to do. We don't want to be who we are, Krishna's loving servants. So we have to be something and somebody, and this is the false ego. We have to acquire false identity. And basically there are 2 categories. You are either Krishna or you are not, you are either God or you're not God. So we are all not God. When you enter the US, there is 2 lines, us and non-us. US and non-US. So you're one of those categories. So we are not Krishna, we're not the Supreme Lord. Still, we want to try to be, and then Krishna gives us this false ego. And when the false ego contacts the 3 modes, when the false ego contacts the mode of ignorance, then appear all these pancha-mahabhutas, all these material elements. So this is one of the aspects of ignorance. Everything around us, material world. Then when the false ego is in the mode of passion, then the result are the senses, and when the false ego is in the mode of goodness, the result are the 11 demigods who control the 5 knowledge acquiring senses and the 5 working senses and the mind. But this is all ignorance, because it is based on false ego. So just by pratyaksha, just by sense perception, we don't know anything about Krishna, about the origin. And this has been noted by different, even Western philosophers. One of them, Kant, he speaks about the reality as it is, and then we are here. This is the reality. This is us. And then how do we try to access the reality through our senses, and this is the only way we have. There is no other way for us to try to see, to experience this objective reality than by our senses and the mind. And what happens when we try to do this? We get impressions of reality. They call these appearances, but they are not the reality itself. The reality by itself is unknown to us. We can only say that I see form, I taste some taste, I feel the air moving, I have different impressions about the reality. But what is the reality? I don't know. And this is already the materialists, they know that. So just by this pratyaksha, it is not possible to understand the reality. So there is another thing called divya pratyaksha, that means divine perception, divine sense perception. For example, the only way our material creation exists is by the sense perception of Krishna. What happens in the beginning of the creation? Krishna glances Maya, Mahatattva. And Srila Prabhupada gives the example, just like when the husband wakes up his wife so that they can enjoy life. So this is the meaning of existence, to enjoy. Just by sleeping, you don't get enjoyment. By being inactive, there is no happiness. You have to be active. Americans know this very well, therefore they're always active. Just by being active, you can acquire anything. And the material creation exists only when the Lord perceives it. So this is the beginning of everything. Krishna glances Maya, and then she becomes agitated, and then everything starts. When Krishna doesn't glance, doesn't see, doesn't perceive Maya, nothing happens. She's just standing there. Maya dyakshena prakritisu tesa characharam hetunanena kauntya jigat viparivartate. And also, we're reading here. Anyway. Also, this divine pratyaksha, the divine perfect sense perception, is bestowed upon the devotees, the pure devotees of the Lord. We read in Bhagavad Gita, pratyakshevagamam dharmyam. This is a direct perception. Directly you can perceive the reality. Without the conditioning, without the filters of the false ego and the products of the false ego, the senses, the material material intelligence, material mind. And also in Bhagavad Gita, we know the verse, Tad vidi pranipatana pariprashnena sevaya upadikshanti te jnanam jnaninastattva darshinaha. We're supposed to approach a person who has seen the reality, tattvadarshi. This is the beginning of the spiritual life. Otherwise, if we don't have access to such person, we don't serve such person, if we don't acquire knowledge from him, then we are only inside the material matrix. We cannot get out of it. So these people, their pratyaksha is perfect. Ours is not. There are some examples, for example, in Mahabharata, when the Pandavas, when Arjuna, he won Draupadi, and then it happened so by the arrangement of the Lord that Draupadi had to become wife of all 5 brothers. Then there was a moment of uncertainty, and then people were confused and doubtful, and then Yudhishthira Maharaj spoke up because it was quite a unique, unusual arrangement. And Yudhishthira Maharaj said, my mind since my birth was always inclined toward dharma, and I have never ever been attracted by adharma. So now, considering this situation and this possibility that we all marry Draupadi, my mind doesn't revolt against it. Consequently, it is dharmic. So this is because he's Dharmaraj, the son of Dharma, so he's spontaneously attracted to Dharma. In other words, his sense perception, his pratyaksha, his way of viewing the world is by default dharmic. So this is the position of the pure devotees. And another example is Madhya Yashoda, when she was confused when she saw Krishna in Krishna's mouth. She saw everything, the whole creation, and she at one one point she was thinking maybe I'm in some deep illusion. Who is Krishna? Who am I? Maybe Krishna is the Supreme Lord. Maybe he is some very powerful demigod. So she for a moment she was not sure about her identity and Krishna's identity. Then she thought, no, I feel that Krishna is my son. Consequently, hence he is my son, because I feel like this. If we try to act in this way, because I feel or I think something, then it is reality. If we fall in this illusion that my mind broadcasts the absolute truth 24/7, then we'll be in big trouble. But for these great devotees, whatever they feel is true, because their feelings are completely purified. So therefore, we have to develop this Shastra Chakshus, that means to see through the eyes of knowledge, through the eyes of the scripture. And this is Shabda Pramana. This is the light of knowledge. We are born in the darkness of ignorance, and then our spiritual master opens our eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. We offer our obeisances to him, and then we'll be able to see the reality in a different way, not in the material way. And in Bhagavatam, there is a verse in 4th canto which says that this is the definition of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness means to be always in contact with the Lord in such a way that you are able to perceive the universe exactly in the way Krishna perceives the universe. This is Krishna consciousness. And then interesting things will happen in our life. For example, in 11th canto, there is this description of Yadu Maharaj, who saw one Avaduta Brahmana, he's known as the Python sadhu, because he was not endeavoring for sense gratification, for material development. He was just sitting there and being blissful in his Krishna consciousness. And whatever happens, whatever comes on its own account, he would take it as Krishna's mercy. If nothing comes, he would just fast. And he was young, handsome, intelligent. He was capable of working in the material world, spiritually or materially, but he was not interested. He was materially exhausted. And then Yadu Maharaj, when he saw him, he became very interested. He could see that this is a special person, although he looked like haunted by ghosts. This is what Bhagavatam says. But Yadu Maharaj was intelligent enough to be able to perceive the great personality. And then he asked him very respectfully, so, my dear holy person, you're very young and you're not lusty. How is this happening? You could take advantage of your youthful energy to enjoy, and you don't do it. Why? How come? Why don't you get involved in this world? You're completely capable of being very successful. And then the Python sadhu, who turns out to be incarnation of Krishna, actually, Dattatreya, then he was very pleased by the mood of Yadu Maharaj. He answered. He told him, I have 24 gurus, and I have learned from them. And then he describes what he has learned from all these gurus. So this is how we see the world around us in spiritual light. For example, he explained that from the moon, he learned about the eternal nature of the soul. We all see the moon. I mean, not always, but sometimes. In New York, maybe, not very often. The sun, the moon. So from the moon, he has learned that since the moon goes through different changes, phases, it appears that it is changed, but it is always the same. In the same way, the soul, although the body goes through different changes, appears that it changes, but it is still the same. So we observe the moon, and we don't necessarily think in this way. People write poetry about the moon, about the beauty of the moon, because they get romantically inclined, but they don't think in this way. And from the tree, he learned that one should dedicate all his efforts to the service of others, just like the tree does. And even when the tree is cut, he doesn't protest. And sometimes even people take out the tree, they uproot the tree, they plant it in different way, in different place, and then they water it, and the tree is supposed to give fruits without protesting. So this is what he learned from the tree. From the earth, he learned that just like the earth is going his way, her way, without deviation, follows the orbit. Although we treat her improperly, in the same way, if somebody mistreats us, then we should just continue to perform our duty and follow our own course without being deviated. So these are different lessons we can learn from nature, following, using Shastra Chakshus, the eyes of the scripture. Okay, Hare Krishna. Yes, it was a very quick reaction. Oh, you need this one? Oh, yeah. Okay. Horrible. Hare Krishna.
So I have a question. Sometimes Prabhupada would also ask his disciples, "How do you know Krishna exists?"
Yeah.
He said, "Well, the Bhagavad Gita said," and he'd tell them to stop. And they'd say, "Well, the Srimad Bhagavatam says," and they'd tell them to stop. And then finally, someone came to the conclusion that, "Prabhupada, I can feel Krishna." Prabhupada said, "Ah, yes." So my question is there because it's not really just like black and white, but how does it really operate to when one comes to deeper senses of real pratyaksha? Because for us, we have Shabda Pramanam, which is like kind of our primary thing, until you actually start getting, as you're saying, swartis, you're getting certain experiences. So as that progresses, like as you're saying, like what a pure devotee feels is reality.
Yeah.
So like then where is the authority of Shabda in comparison to pratyaksha in that sense?
For the pure devotees.
Yeah.
Everybody is always under the control of the Veda, eternally, but the residents of the spiritual world, they are perfect in the sense that they don't have to fight with their animalistic low nature, because they don't have, they're just spiritual. Their whole essence is ragatmika, means the whole, the very essence of the soul is raga. Raga means spontaneous attraction without the need of processing through the intelligence and the mind. Spontaneously attracted to pure devotion state. So then the very existence of these personalities, their activities, their moods, their emotions, everything is we can say the final conclusion of the Vedas. So they are therefore they are the Vedas personified. Whatever they say. For example, we are reading every day from Srimad Bhagavatam. How do we know that what Bhagavatam says is true? It's all based on the authority of Srila Vyasadeva, who in the first canto, it is described in 7th chapter, I believe, and he sat down in meditation. And in his meditation, he saw Divya Pratyaksha. He saw Krishna, he saw Maya, he saw the Jiva, Anartha Pasamam Sakshat, Bhakti Yoga Dokshije, Lokase Janato Vidvams, Chakrasatata Samhitam. He saw how the living entities are in trouble, they're suffering because of superfluous, superficial reasons, attachment to something that is unreal. He saw that Bhakti Yoga can mitigate these sufferings directly, and he saw that people don't know that. Lokasyai ajanato, they don't know. Therefore, he compiled Srimad Bhagavatam. So the whole thing is based on his sense perception. That's how we know. That's how Bhagavatam starts. Fire. Hare Krishna.
So basically, if you completely put yourself in the person's emotion, nowadays, how do we stay in the fire? Now, these devotees, they nowadays, even if for a moment we decide to let go, again, I have to maybe yes, is the test where your raga will go. Raga goes towards Krishna. Nowadays, when you don't hold the process, our raga is not anymore. It shows that we can do this level also. Never should go back to the
Thank you.
I just remembered a quote from one of Srila Prabhupada's classes, I believe, that on the same point. He said that Krishna is ready to talk with you. He has come. He has descended in Archamurti to talk with you, to be visible by you. Now you make yourself ready and fit to talk with Krishna. Then he will exchange conversation. Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti. This is possible.
Krishna.
This is possible.
Srila Prabhupada says in one place, Krishna is responsive. Means he will respond. He's not irresponsible. Yes. Say something else?
I was also thinking about this point. You started the class by saying that Krishna cannot be understood through our logic, sense perception. And maybe if we broaden a little bit this, we can also present it in this way. Krishna cannot be understood by our material assets. Because very often we want to approach Krishna through our material assets. For example, you come to the temple and you're super like sharp guy, super intelligent, and you say, okay, now Krishna, you have to reveal yourself to me. Why? Because I'm qualified. Or I am the greatest Kirtaniya, the greatest Bhagavatam speaker. And because I have this material asset that, let's say, my mind works very fast, or I speak very nicely, or my voice is very nice for singing, now Krishna, you have to reveal yourself in front of me. But it's not like that, because this material, just this lifetime it happened that you have a nice voice or you're a very sharp guy or whatever. But it's material. Krishna is not dependent on anything material. So the only thing in this verse it is said can buy Krishna is the pure devotion. Is bhakti.
Yes, there is a very nice verse from Bhagavatam. Manye danadi dhana rupatapa shrutaugas teja prabhava bala paurusha buddhi yoga narada nasya hi bhavati parasipunsa bhaktyat tosha bhagavan gajayutapaya. So Krishna cannot be pleased or attracted by dana, wealth, aristocratic birth in a high family, by Shruta even, by hearing the Vedas, even by this, cannot be. If you're very educated, by tapa, by austerities, and then by influence, by diligence, by being very sharp, as you said. And Gajayutapaya, this refers to Gajendra. Gajendra was in the body of animal. He got the mercy of Krishna, although he was neither of those. So the animal, devotee in the body of an animal, will get the mercy of Krishna. And somebody very, very intelligent, very expert, will not, if he is not a devotee. The famous example is King Nriga, who was very, very qualified. So qualified that when Yamaraj looked at his record, said, you practically stay forever in heaven because you have done so much punya. Still, there is one little mistake that you made. So we would like first to experience the bad results, which are very, very minimal, or first the good results. What is your choice? So, and you have King Nriga, who had to become a lizard, and then you have Gajendra, who went back home to Godhead from the animal body, because he is devotee. Better to become a devotee. Also, you mentioned a very expert Bhagavatam speaker, because recently we heard this lecture by Jayadvaita Maharaj, how to give Bhagavatam class. So it's very, very interesting to hear Maharaj making the point that it is not how sharp you are, it is not about how eloquent speaker you are. It is just a matter of sincerely presenting the Guru Parampara's message. But sometimes the discussion is, what is a good Bhagavatam? He gave or she gave good Bhagavatam class. But what is a good Bhagavatam class? It is not entertainment. It is not telling nice, in a nice, very poetic way, stories about Krishna or speaking philosophy. It's not about being very funny or cracking jokes. It is serious thing. We are responsible to deliver the same message as Srila Vyasadeva. Therefore, this is called Vyasa-san. It's not about, in other words, it's not about our material qualification. Good Bhagavatam is not somebody who is materially qualified to speak in a nice way. It's something different. It's spiritual message coming from Krishna, delivered with sincerity and according to one's own realization. Therefore, Sutta Goswami explains that just like the birds, they fly on different altitude, also I will speak according to my own realization, not according to somebody else's realization, which may be very high, too high. Yes, all right. Something else? Yes, bro.
I think it was Jaigor that said this morning, but today is Buy Me Ekadasi. So Krishna is saying, buy me with your love. So we can use this day to dive deeper in our strict sadhana and services in a loving mood and hear more about Krishna so we can cultivate more knowledge to understand him and love him by his grace. I was just thinking about that. I was also thinking this verse in Ādi-līlā 426. Priyadi mana kari kariye bartsan Veda stuti hoite hare se moraman. So you're saying all these things you can learn about so many things and be so intelligent, but Krishna doesn't really care about that. So Krishna says here, if my beloved consort reproaches me in a sulky mood, that steals my mind from the reverent hymns of the Vedas. So that this pure love, it's much more attractive to Krishna, and the importance of developing that is primary. But of course, as Tulsi Prabhu says, we strictly follow the process so that we can come to that point also. But we should have that desire to serve Krishna in that way. Hare Krishna.
Yes, thank you. Even the Vedic erudition compared to the spontaneous love, Krishna says, my mind, stolen away by from the Brahmanas chanting the Vedic hymns. Yeah. Okay, Grantaraj Srimad Caitanya-caritāmṛta ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande. All glories to the Sangha devotees. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Oh, just some time.